Road-based training, let's get to it. Although I'm hearing this strange sound from... Ugh. We've got a pair of Russian Su-17 fitters rolling in towards the target. And their target today is going to be Sanaki Kolki. All of our main bases have been blown up, so this is all about road bases and dispersed operations in the Viggen. I'm Tempest and I run the F7 squadron in amongst ANZUS. If you're keen to join, there'll be a link in the description as well. But this video I'm making is to show how this works, people interested in my mission, but also to give my flyers a bit of guidance on safely operating on the road base. Alright, so we'll do everything as normal. Put the data cartridge in. Shush the Hoovered warning. There we go. I like a couple of lights on. Let's arm the seat, arm the oxygen. We're using rockets today, so we'll switch it to attack and unhook that. So, a bit of understanding for what the road base is actually doing. Oh, ignore that ski ramp. We're testing that at the moment. It's not going well. We're often winding up in the trees. But anyway, this is the rearming point and sort of a simulated command and control zone. This is the actual approach here. So you land between the two white boxes and you hopefully stop before the end, or else, yeah, bad things happen to good people. Computer's almost on. Engine's stable. That looks good. Any second now. I've added some turbulence and my AOA gauge is doing funny things. It's interesting. In the last few times I've tried making this video, we've got B0 or BO up here. So just imagine you're seeing BO, because it normally will be there. Essentially, when you spawn a Viggen from a normal, conventional airbase, the game tells the Viggen, hey man, you're at Sanaki, that's where you are, this is the TILS channel, this is the headings, the runways, you're good to go. But because this is a road base that I made, I have to somehow communicate to your jet where you are. The jet knows where it is at all times, it knows where it is because it knows where it isn't. So first thing, we get a 9099 to read the cartridge as normal, LS skew, and we now have the flight plan. Here's what I wanted to show you, but see this, B0, right? We have no idea where we're starting from. So, I'm hearing more roaring sounds. Clear the data for a second, and then the way we do this is the ref Lola position. You probably know it from loading the data cartridge, which is a reference code. 9099 is a reference code. The Lola part is the coordinates you might be adding in for a waypoint, but let's focus back on reference. Let's switch to our kneeboard and scroll to air bases, and normally it'll be at the first base. So it shows all the conventional bases first. If you want to land at Krimsk, you could, 9004. You would type in that code into here and enter it and fly to Russia and hopefully, land before the S300 gets you. But instead, we're going to scroll through, so right shift page up until we see road base Dublin, which is where we are. I will note for my mission that there is a rearming Dublin. I know that's confusing. This is just the rearming point invisible for this location here, so you can rearm. It is not the landing point. So we want to type in 9031. That's the code for this road base. So input 9031 and press LS skew, and now it says LS and the computer is happy. Since we'll be landing here as well, I may as well type in the same code again and type it into LMOL. It's for landing position. We're basically good to go here. Alright, let's taxi over. Brakes off, and we're moving. Again, this mission is more as an instruction if you know how to fly the Viggen normally but haven't operated from road bases. So if you are looking for good tutorials, highly recommend XXJohnXX and his videos. Some of them are fairly old, but they stand up nicely. We use them for training all the time, so very much appreciate the work he put into his videos. Crash Laube is good for a quick and amusing and Irish update as well before you go out and fly. I do intend to do some training videos of my own to sort of show some nuanced things and some shortcuts for how I operate the Viggen, to sort of simplify your understanding and learning of the Viggen. Alright, so there's a couple of things here. Just quickly, if we didn't load, let's talk about worst case scenario. You didn't load the reference code and you took off with B0. The aircraft has no way to compute and calibrate the compass. So the way the Viggen gets away from having to do a full 20-minute alignment like an F-14 or something is by essentially having a very simple INS, but also it does the heading alignment based on your takeoff run. Runways don't move relative to the Earth, so it's a good system. So if you take off without the code, it has no reference point, no latlon to say where you are, and also no heading, so it just, the computer knows it's balked, so it says navsist, and you probably cry, at least I do. What we want to do here is switch to nav, and that gives us the normal HUD we're used to seeing. This dot here, we want to keep this dot between the two boxes on takeoff, and if we do this, the system will automatically align the compass. If it's very windy, it may be worth pressing the reference button in your controls. I have it bound to my stick to really manually say when you're at the right heading. A bit of a kink in this roadway, in this road base, so it'll be right. In short, road bases are usually shorter than runways, so we want to use full power. In fact, I think we always use full power in the Viggen for takeoffs. Being a delta wing fighter, we don't want to be messing around on the drag curve. Reference button now to sort of get the bit of that. There we go. I'll just show something quickly here. You see how we've got, so right now we're well aligned, and we've got this down the bottom too. Now, this is a useful cue, but for road bases, basically just use as much of the road base as you can take off. You want to have as much energy coming off, because as you can see, there are trees to get past here. When we take off, we're going to smoothly pull the flight path marker up through the HUD. Ideally, we'd want to keep it within the gates, but typically the nose will kind of pull up a little bit more, and you will exceed the AOA briefly. In some ways, that's a good thing, as we want to get over these trees. So we'll just do that now. There we go, and pop, and we're off the ground. That was quite the pull-up, actually. That's probably because we had a tailwind, so that'll be good for landing at least, but yeah. I should say too, be mindful of what sort of payload you're bringing to these missions and road bases. Technically, for this base back here, I've seen everyone launching with everything. You know, 1 tank, 4 BK-90s, and all the hopes and dreams of Sweden on their aircraft. But ideally, particularly when you're learning, carrying lighter payloads and practicing is good. Today we're going to land with somewhat lower fuel than normal. Sorry, somewhat more fuel than normal. Ideally, you'd be coming back with about 40%, maybe even less. So, but that'll be a way to show exactly how to do a stabilized approach. Because we've got the chance, we may as well put our rockets into something over here. Let's see if I can find a bridge to sink. Ooh, hang on. Did you see that? I saw that. Ah, we've got our Su-17s right there. I see at least one of them. Where's the other guy? Do we see him? I don't want to pull in without knowing there's one behind me. I'll quickly shoot him down, and then we'll get to our mission. He's heading right over our road base, so there's a good chance he'll get tagged by a manpad. Sidewinder. Tone. A little far out. Might make it. Where's his friend? Fox 2. There's his friend. Ooh. Let's see if we hit him. Second missile ready. We'll definitely catch him. Nothing escapes a Viggen. I think... Ooh. We're almost there. We have to taste blood. And this is a good way to actually burn down some of our fuel a bit. He's really motoring, but he's not going to get away from this. Fox 2. And let's see how we go. He never saw it coming. Pop. Alright. That sort of quickly shows as well the effectiveness of road bases. You know, if you think you've got S priority and then you realize suddenly you don't because someone's launching from a highway, well, that's what happens. I'll quickly use up my rockets too. Let's see if we can find a building that deserves to be blown up. That looks like oil tanks. That should blow up nicely. Weapon selector is good. I'm going to come off the trigger. This is not a very good approach for an attack, but this isn't rocket training, this is airbase training. We'll quickly do this and we'll go back and land. Let's come off the power. Coming towards the queue. We see wings, we shoot. Wings. And normally we'd break right off, but ooh, they blow up so nicely. Okay. Mission complete, and we're down to 70% fuel. That's good. So now we've flown our mission, we've done our stuff. Now we want to get home and land safely without, perhaps there's some Su-27s coming and we'd rather not tangle with them. So let's get home. So first thing we'll do, we'll go to landing mole, select L1. And remember, we set the code, so that's going to be our runway. That's going to be our road base. So into landing nav. Let's turn ourselves around towards that base, but not before looking at our beautiful, majestic airbase, which has been shattered by bombs and rockets and things. Well, this is why we have dispersed operations. Okay. I'll extend that here for a little bit. I'll just use some time compression to get us into position. So I want to be about 1,300 meters above for this base. There are some nasty mountains that can mess up your approach, particularly when you're non-visual. And yes, that's true. The road base works even in poor weather. So the till system is accurate enough to get you close, even in really ugly weather. I've landed with, I think, the last 100 meters being visible, so it's pretty accurate. We'll do a flip-flop landing. Again, more information if you want to find that on a landing nav tutorial, but essentially switching from landing nav to landing PO, or visual landing, and back shortens the approach. And because we're good Viggen pilots, we want to not be clogging up the approach for any longer than we have to be. So my rules for approach and landing on road bases is I fly the 550 all the way around the circle until I see a solid tills marker down here, and then I pop the gear down. And that means we land relatively quickly. We've got a headwind for this landing, which is going to be good. Let's get a bit of time compression so you're not waiting all day for me. I could learn to edit my videos, but that just seems like way too much effort. And we want to be at 1.3 altitude. There we go. It's getting our command turn in for the circle. The approach. Again, just a quick run through. We want to try and keep the fin on the flight path marker using the throttle. That's trying to keep us on the right AOA, which at the moment I think is about 5 degrees or 550 Ks. And normally we would be descending here to get ourselves low, but as you can see there's a mountain in the way. So we fly around 1,300, or in this case 1,200, to avoid the mountain. Oh, we've now got this line here that's just appeared. That is where the nav system thinks the runway heading extends out to. So if your nav system is accurate, and ours certainly is, that's probably more accurate than the tills. Tills is a great system. It's a portable ILS system, but its limitation is that it's only one unit rather than an entire array. So it is always some curve to your approach, which you have to then adjust for and correct as you come around. Getting flashing tills, which means we're getting lateral guidance. Soon we'll get solid tills, and then we'll have our approach, and we'll put the gear down. You'll see it flick through on the HUD. Tills, there it is. Gear coming down. Throttle to idle. And it's commanding us to descend, so we will do that straight away. Being a Delta Wing fighter, canards notwithstanding, Viggen does not like getting slow, so worry less about getting yourself slow and more about not getting too slow. Once you start getting very slow, you may need to use afterburner to get yourself out of that drag curve, and there can be situations that you can't, so yeah. So we're on the correct heading, but we're way too high, which is fine. We've got plenty of time to fix it. And I guess just for my F7 guys, the guys I fly with, we're really trying to emphasize a safety culture of not making the landing happen just because we really want it to. I'd rather have people going around and not breaking the fields. They're actually doing a really good job at the moment, but it's just about, when it comes to training, getting us so that we're all consistent. Oh, getting a bit low on the approach. That's okay. There we go. We're basically spot on for the system. If you're new to the Viggen as well, I really find the ADI guidance is clearer to see and more accurate than the HUD. But your mileage may vary. Once we can see the road base, which we sort of can here, you can see this is what I'm talking about. The tills is bringing us in on a curve. It'll kind of drag us across to the left on landing. So you can totally follow the tills down, but since we can see the runway here, we're going to switch to landing PO, or landing visual. And now we've got a cleaned up HUD. And I'll just quickly describe what I'm going to do here. We want to get that steering dot there off to the right here. That's the guy there. We want to get that over the landing approach and online first. We'll let the flight path marker handle itself for the moment. Throttle back a bit. There we go, start, bring it back over, arm the reverser. Okay. So we're sort of dragging that dot across here by flying it over. We're sort of dragging the dot where we want it to be. Alignment looks good. Dot to descend a bit. Ooh, that's getting a bit slow. That's what you want to watch for. You want to be quick to catch that. It's a bit like a carrier landing. You know, it's if you're going to have an error, you want to be going too fast, not too slow. Okay. The steering dot matters more than the FPM. I know it seems weird, but this is not a problem, because it'll wind up in the right space anyway. There we go, and that's what it looks like. That's the sight picture you want, is all these three cues lined up where you're going to be landing. Once we land, we're going to push the nose down, get the reverser firing as soon as possible. We're not going to use the rudders or the brakes. The brakes are only there, differential braking, to keep us lined up. We want to use the reverser to slow down. And we've got plenty of space. Don't land short, land a little bit long. There it is. There it is. Okay, nose down, full power. Using differential braking to keep us aligned. And we stop with no worries. That's with a fairly gentle headwind and 60% fuel and rocket pods kept on board. So as you see, you've got plenty of margin here. I didn't even touch the brakes, I just used the reverser. So that's how we use the road bases. I think they're great fun. I really enjoyed making this mission, but I also really enjoy flying with a couple of guys and gals and blowing up targets. I like the idea of fighting from the forests and being able to fight even after we've lost the war. So if you enjoy my mission, I'll leave it linked in the description as well. Please leave some feedback, positive or negative. I'm always keen to improve it. So thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.